All right, time to dive in. We're looking at Akzo Nobel India Ltd's Q2 results for fiscal year 25.
Uh-huh.
And wow, you really sent over the whole works, huh?
Yeah.
We got the press release, their financials, the investor presentation,
Oh, yeah.
even some potential questions.
Always good to be prepared, right?
It's like we've got this backstage pass to their strategy.
Exactly. And with this much info, we can definitely piece together a clear picture of how they're doing, maybe even uncover some insights you wouldn't catch just skimming, you know?
Exactly. Imagine you're getting ready for like that big shareholder meeting, right? We're going to
Yeah.
give you the must-know numbers and some of those little, wait, did you know that facts? So you can really stand out.
Exactly,
Right.
exactly. So let's kick things off with what really caught my eye. Akzo Nobel India declared a pretty big interim dividend.
Oh, yeah.
€70 per share for FY25.
€70. Wow. That's not bad at all. I mean, that makes being a shareholder look even better, right?
Especially because it's timed perfectly with their 70th anniversary in India. Smart move to connect those, I'd say.
Yeah, definitely.
Now, if we zoom out and look at their overall performance, both their standalone and consolidated profit after tax, or PA, are up 4% for the quarter.
Okay.
And that growth, consistent with their half-year results, too.
Steady growth, that's always good to see.
Yeah.
But revenue, that's the real heartbeat. What's happening on that front?
Revenue from operations is also looking good, up 3% for both the quarter and the half year. So top line's moving in the right direction.
Okay, so on the surface, things are looking pretty good.
Yeah.
But let's, peel back some of those layers, see what's actually driving these results.
Their B2B performance has been a real powerhouse,
Yeah.
specifically in paints and coatings.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting thing is they've hit double-digit volume growth, but that hasn't quite been matched in value growth.
So they're selling more, but maybe not at the prices they were hoping for.
Yeah, could be. Could mean a few things. Maybe they're having to offer discounts to stay competitive, or there's been a shift in what types of products they're selling, more of the lower price stuff, maybe. We also got to factor in the overall economy, right? The investor presentation mentions a bit of a sluggish retail market, especially outside the major cities.
Right, right. We did get some questions about that.
Yeah, so maybe they're getting squeezed from both sides, Pressure on pricing, A&D, weaker demand.
Yeah, that's a tough spot to be in.
Definitely a tightrope walk. But on the plus side, their project's business segment is doing great. Double-digit growth there, so it's not all bad news.
Got to find those silver linings. Speaking of challenges, though, how are they handling those rising raw material costs? That's been a real headache for so many industries.
Seems like they're managing it pretty well. They've been focusing on optimizing operational expenses, basically tightening their belts in other areas to protect that bottom line.
Classic move. Takes some discipline to pull that off, though.
Absolutely. Now let's get into some of the finer details, the stuff you might miss on a quick glance. What stood out to me was the statement of cash flows. Interesting stuff there.
Oh, yeah. Like what?
Well, first off, they're funding both their capital expenditures, or CapEx, and those nice dividend payouts straight from their operating cash flow.
Okay. So that means they're generating enough cash from their day-to-day business to cover both investments for the future and rewards for shareholders.
Exactly. And there's another sneaky but important detail. Their working capital management has gotten way better. In simple terms, they're collecting money faster from customers. That's called Days Sales Outstanding, or DSO.
Ah, I see where you're going with this.
Right. And I bet they're taking a bit longer to pay their own suppliers, which is Days Payable Outstanding, or DPO.
Exactly.
So that two-pronged approach really helps boost their cash flow, which makes them more financially stable.
Okay, I feel like I could analyze a balance sheet now.
Uh-huh.
But before we move on, something's been bugging me.
Oh. What's that?
You mentioned the consistent growth and profitability, right?
Yeah.
Is that across the board, or are there any weird exceptions?
That is a really good question. Really shows why it's important to look beyond just the headlines. Most segments are doing well, but there is this one odd thing. Their subsidiary, ICI India Research and Technology Center Private Limited, pulled in $4 million in revenue for the quarter.
Okay, that sounds promising.
Yeah, but here's the kicker. They reported zero net profit.
Zero? That's strange. What's going on there?
Definitely makes you wonder, what are they working on that brings in revenue but isn't making a profit yet? Could be something really innovative in the pipeline. Who knows?
Yeah, maybe they're pouring tons of money into R&D. Maybe they're on the edge of something that could totally shake up the whole paint and coatings industry,
Wouldn't that be something?
It's like a mini mystery inside our deep dive. Okay, let's switch gears a bit. I'm always interested in new product launches. What's Akzo Nobel been cooking up?
Oh, they've been busy for sure. They've launched a bunch of upgraded products, each one tackling a specific consumer need.
Uh-huh.
Like, their Deluxe Super Clean 3-in-1 is now being called India's first scuff mark resistant premium interior emulsion.
Scuff mark resistant. Any parent or pet owner is going to love that.
Right. And they're also addressing another big problem in India dust. They've got this new Deluxe Weather Shield Protect Dustproof made just for that.
Smart. Makes sense of the climate and everything. Shows they're really thinking about what their customers are dealing with.
And for the pros, there's the Dulux Professional Weather Shield TR-E2000 with a 15-year performance warranty.
Wow, 15 years. They must be super confident about how long it lasts to offer that.
Right. So it's like they're hitting it from all angles, focusing on innovation and meeting different needs.
Okay, so we've covered a lot here, from their financials to product launches, even community work.
Yeah, quite a bit.
It's impressive how Akzo Nobel is trying to handle all these different things going on in the market.
It is a balancing act for sure. I mean, on one hand, they're pushing these premium products, like scuff resistance and dust protection, definitely going for a customer who's willing to pay more.
Right, people who want the best and are willing to pay for it.
Exactly. But at the same time, the retail market, especially in those smaller towns and rural areas, is going through a bit of a slowdown.
So how do you bring those two things together? It's like they're trying to reach both ends of the market at the same time.
Yeah, and that's a risky strategy. Can they get enough of that premium market to make up for any weakness in the overall retail market? That's the big question.
And what about those rising raw material costs?
Yeah,
They've been dealing with it okay so far, but can they keep that up long term?
that's what everyone will be watching in the coming quarters, right? It's a constantly shifting situation. Got to be able to adapt.
Okay, zooming out a bit, where do you see Akzo Nobel India going from here? What hints can we get from what they're doing now?
Hard to say for sure, especially without specific guidance from the company. But I'd say their actions point to some optimism. That investment in a new powder coatings plant in Gwalior, definitely a sign they're confident about growth.
That new plant adds a lot of production capacity, right? 5,200 tons per year, I think it was.
Yeah, that's a big move. Shows they believe in the Indian market long term. And those product launches, especially the ones focused on fixing specific problems for customers, shows their commitment to innovating and standing out from the crowd.
And their work in sustainability and community engagement shouldn't be overlooked either. Those things are becoming more and more important for people who want to support brands that share their values.
Absolutely. It's not just about the product anymore. It's about the company as a whole and what they do for the world.
Okay, so it seems like Akzo Nobel India is going for a multifaceted approach, right?
Yeah.
Combining careful financial management with a focus on new products, sustainability, and giving back to the community.
Yep. They're not running from challenges, they're facing them head on. That kind of proactive approach could set them up really well for the future.
It all comes down to action, doesn't it? It's not just about saying the right things, it's about doing them.
Exactly. Actions speak louder than words, and Akzo Nobel India seems to be walking the walk.
Now, if you had to give our listener just one key takeaway from all this, what would it be?
I'd say it's this. Akzo Nobel India is showing real resilience in a pretty complex and ever-changing economic environment. They're not just riding the wave, they're actively steering the ship, balancing growth goals with smart financial management.
And they're not shying away from investing in the future, both with actual facilities, 80 new ideas.
Right. They're playing the long game, which should give investors and stakeholders some peace of mind.
We've covered so much today. From breaking down financial statements and figuring out their product strategies, to looking at their community work and even thinking about the future of paint.
We left no stone unturned. But as always, this deep dive is really just the starting point.
It's like a framework, a launching pad for people to explore further.
We've given the map, now it's up to our listeners to chart their own course.
Exactly.
We really want to encourage everyone to dig into those source documents, read the press release, really examine those financial statements, dive deep into the investor presentation.
You might find things we missed or make connections that spark new ideas. That's the whole point of learning, right?
Absolutely. And don't forget about those links in the show notes. There's a ton of resources there for you.
But before you go off on your own, we do have one last thought to leave you with. Remember that weird detail about Akzo Nobel India's subsidiary? The one with revenue but zero profit.
Oh yeah, the mysterious ICI India Research and Technology Center Private Limited.
What if their research is focused on something truly game-changing? Something that could completely change the paint and coatings industry as we know it.
Now that's a thought, isn't it?
Imagine a paint that cleans the air, or a coating that makes solar energy, or Maybe even a paint that changes color based on your mood.
Endless possibilities. That's what's so great about a deep dive. It makes you curious, sparks your imagination, and leaves you wanting more.
It's about going deeper, questioning what you think you know, and embracing the unknown.
It's about realizing that even something as ordinary as paint can have incredible potential for innovation.
So keep thinking, stay curious, and never stop exploring. We'll be back soon with another deep dive into a whole new world. Until then, happy exploring.
See you then. It's a balancing act for sure. On one hand, you've got them pushing these premium products.
Yeah.
All those features, like scuff resistance and dust protection, clearly targeting a customer who's a bit more, I don't know, discerning.
Right, the kind of person who wants the best and is willing to pay a little extra for it.
Exactly. But then on the other hand, you've got that retail market that's, well, it's a bit sluggish, especially outside the major cities.
Yeah, that's a tough situation for sure.
It is. So how do they make those two things work together? It's like they're trying to appeal to everyone at the same time.
It is a bit of a gamble, isn't it? I mean, can they capture enough of that premium market to offset any weakness in the overall retail sector? That's the big question.
The million-dollar question, for sure. And then you've got those rising raw material costs on top of everything else.
Right, they've been managing it okay so far, but can they keep that up long term? Nobody knows, right?
That's what analysts and investors will be watching closely, right? Things are always changing. Got to be able to adapt.
So bigger picture, where do you see Akzo Nobel India headed? What clues can we get from what they're doing now?
Oh, man. Predicting the future is tough, especially when the company isn't giving specific financial guidance.
Yeah, it's all a bit of a guessing game.
But their actions do point to some optimism. Take that new powder coatings plant in Gwalior, for example. That's a pretty clear sign they're confident about growth.
A pretty big investment, too. Adds 5,200 tons per year to their production capacity, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, that's right. Big move. Shows they believe in the Indian market long term. And their product launches, those are interesting too, especially the ones that are focused on solving specific problems for customers. Shows they're committed to innovation and differentiation, trying to stand out from the crowd.
And we can't forget about all their work in sustainability and community engagement. That stuff matters more and more these days, especially to people who want to support brands that align with their values.
Totally agree. It's not just about what you're selling anymore. It's about the company as a whole and what they stand for.
So it looks like Akzo Nobel India is going for this multifaceted approach, right? Blending smart financial management with a focus on innovation, sustainability, and giving back to the community.
Exactly. They're not running from challenges. They're tackling them head on. It's a smart move, and it could set them up for some serious success down the line.
In the end, it all comes down to action, right? It's not enough to just talk the talk. You've got to walk the walk.
Couldn't agree more. Actions speak louder than words, and Akzo Nobel India seems to be putting their money where their mouth is.
So if you had to boil it all down to one key takeaway for our listeners, what would it be?
Tough one. But I think I'd say this. Akzo Nobel India is showing some serious resilience in a really complex and unpredictable economic environment. They're not just along for the ride, they're actively navigating, finding that balance between growth goals and smart financial moves.
And they're not afraid to invest in the future, both in terms of actual facilities and new ideas.
Right. They're in it for the long haul. And that should give investors and stakeholders a bit of comfort.
We've covered a ton of ground today, from breaking down those financial statements and understanding their product strategies to looking at their work in the community and even thinking about where the paint industry is headed.
Yeah, we didn't miss much. But remember, this is just the beginning, the jumping off point.
It's like a framework, a launch pad for people to explore further.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. We've provided the map. Now it's up to our listeners to blaze their own trail.
Exactly. Go out there and explore.
We really want to encourage everyone to dig into those source documents. Don't just take our word for it. Read the press release, spend some time with those financial statements, dive deep into that investor presentation.
You might find things we didn't catch or make connections that spark new ideas. That's what makes this stuff so exciting.
Totally agree. And remember, there's a ton of additional resources linked in the show notes.
Oh, right. Before you go off on your own, though, we do have one last thing to leave you with. Remember that strange little detail about Akzo Nobel India's subsidiary? The one with revenue, but no profit.
Oh, yeah. ICI India Research and Technology Center Private Limited. Still a bit of a mystery, isn't it?
What if they're working on something really game-changing? something that could revolutionize the paint and coatings industry as we know it.
Whoa, that's a thought.
Imagine a paint that cleans the air, or a coating that generates solar power. Or what about a paint that changes color with your mood?
Mind blown. See, that's what I love about deep dives. They make you curious, they fire up your imagination, and they leave you wanting more.
It's about going beyond the surface, questioning what you think you know, and being open to the unknown.
It's about realizing that even something as seemingly simple as paint can have incredible potential for innovation.
So keep those brains working, stay curious, and never stop exploring. We'll be back soon with another deep dive into a whole new world. Until then, happy exploring.
You know, thinking about all these possibilities, it kind of makes me realize that we get so caught up in the numbers, right? The reports, the financials.
Oh, for sure, but that's crucial stuff. Got to have a solid foundation.
Absolutely. But I think sometimes we forget about the bigger picture, the human side of it all.
Yeah, the passion, the drive to create something new, all that. You can't really capture that in a spreadsheet.
Exactly. And that's what makes companies like Akzo Nobel tick, right? It's the people behind the scenes, the researchers pushing boundaries, the marketing folks crafting those compelling stories. The people who see a plain wall and don't just see paint, but like endless possibilities, a blank canvas.
Yes.
Mm.
That's worth celebrating,
Right.
Something to keep in mind as we analyze all these results. The numbers tell a story, sure, but it's that human spark that really brings it to life.
Well said. It's a good reminder that business isn't all about balance sheets and profits. It's about people, their ideas, and how they impact the world.
So for our listeners who have been on this journey with us today, I think we've given them a pretty amazing deep dive.
Definitely. We've explored every little detail of Akzo Nobel India's Q2 performance.
We've broken down the financials, analyzed their product strategy, even thought about the future of paint itself.
Who knew paint could be so interesting, huh?
It's amazing what you discover when you really dig in. We've given you the knowledge. Now it's your turn to use it.
Exactly. Think critically, ask the tough questions, don't be afraid to challenge what you think you know.
And most importantly, stay curious. There's always something new to learn, something else to explore. That's what makes all this so rewarding. This deep dive, it's just the beginning.
Exactly. So go out there and rock that shareholder meeting, impress your friends with all your new paint knowledge, and keep those minds working.
We'll be back soon with another fascinating deep dive into a whole new world of information. Until then, happy exploring.